Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and lots to get into on the show tonight. First place I want to start with Elliot Anderson and the price tag around him not being anywhere near £100 million. Also, Baleba waiting on Manchester United, giving them an open goal there. We've got the latest on Joao Gomes as well. Kone heading out on loan. The bottom line is, and we're picking up a lot of this from the interview Ben Jacobs did with Beth this afternoon, is that Manchester United could actually get two decent midfielders in 2026 for about £100 million. The question is going to be, they're up for grabs. Who are we going to go for? Joao Gomes, we could go for in January. Ben Jacobs said it a few hours ago. I said it last night. It can be done. The question is, with so many options up for grabs, who do Manchester United get and go for? So get your comments in, but we're going to fly straight into what was a very, very interesting update about Elliot Anderson. Now, last week on the show, when Ben Jacobs was being interviewed by Beth, he said that the price tag for Elliot Anderson that's being quoted around of £100 million is considerably lower than that. And yet this week, Plettigol from Sky Germany was talking about a January deal and £100 to £120 million. So we had the opportunity to get into Ben Jacobs and ask him what that's all about. And essentially, that's the price Forest can demand if Manchester United were to try and go for Elliot Anderson in January. But if they go for him in the summer, circumstances, and he was a little bit, what's the word? Vague about it, not wanting to say the words release clause, but circumstances are available in the summer that would bring that price down to what appears to be around 60 to 70 million pounds. He said it's not 50, but it's considerably lower than 100 million pounds. What are these circumstances? I don't know. I don't know. I listened to the interview as much as probably some of you did, and he did say that release clause isn't a word he would use, but he did reference Gibbs White, who didn't technically have a release clause, but did. And Spurs fell foul of it, and he ended up signing a new contract. So it appears that Elliot Anderson, and it's coming from people close to Elliot Anderson, according to Ben Jacobs, Elliot Anderson is certainly what he is looking at. Elliot Anderson is certainly looking at lower than £100 million. I mean, look, that makes it very, very interesting, because not only is he many people's number one choice, if he's cheaper, a lot of people are going to look at him. And you're going to get competition from Chelsea. You're going to get competition from Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle, potentially Man City. There will be a lot of interest, but that price is going to be a lot lower. Ruben says, do you think it's a relegation clause? No. Just Molipo is laughing about a 7 p.m. show. Did it say 8 o'clock? It was always going to be a 7 o'clock. Sorry. I might have put 8 o'clock on it when I've set it up out of just routine, but it was always a 7 o'clock show because I'm doing England against Serbia at 7:45. So apologies, it was always a 7 o'clock show, but it appears I may have scheduled it for 8 o'clock, in which case people are going to turn up in an hour and be a little bit disappointed. But look, we'll fly through and we'll carry on. No, Ruben, I don't think it's a relegation clause. I mean, I don't know what it is. My guess would be it's not a simple it's not a simple release clause. I think he's available, and I'm guessing here, based on what Ben Jacobs saying, it's considerably less than 100, but it's not 50. I think it's somewhere between 60 and 70, which is fine. That's what we paid for Mbeumo. So I think it's around £65 million, and I think the parameters of it are, it's a club. This is just a guess, but a release clause is you pay £65 million, you get the player. It's not that simple. I think there are parameters. I think that some of those parameters could be, it's a Champions League club. So it could be £65 million and it's a Champions League club. And Nottingham Forest aren't in the Champions League. I think it could be stuff like that. I know these sort of things exist. I've spoken to players in the past, former and present, and these things are weird, especially Man United don't give them out much because we're Manchester United, but teams like Everton, Nottingham Forest, those sort of clubs do have these things, because what happens is you sign for Forest, you do really well, and then a Champions League club says, we want to buy you, and Forest go 100 million. And they go, well, I don't think he's that good. So what these players do is they go, I will sign for you, but I want it in writing that if somebody offers £65 million in a summer transfer window and they're in the Champions League, you have to accept it. Because it's not valuable. It's not valid in January. And And also Forest can't be in the Champions League as well. It could be more it could be more detailed than that. It could be less detailed than that. But I think it's something like that. I think it's something like if a Champions League club offers £65 million in the summer before June the 30th, then Forest have to accept it. And I think it will be something like that. Because if you think about it, when he signed from Newcastle for Forest, why would Forest not say yes to that? They don't know whether he's going to be a success or not. They still make a profit. They still double their money. You know, I think it will be something like that, which is interesting because, you know what? If we're going to go for Anderson, I don't want us to pay £100 million. And if we're going to get Anderson, we're going to get Anderson, and we're going to get him at a reasonable price. Let's see if we go for him. Let's see if we can get him. Of course, someone else might come in and get him, but he's at a reasonable price, and I think that's a very interesting thing. So fair play to Beth and Ben. Another exclusive on the United stand from that today. And yeah, I'll be interested to read your comments later, but I think for £65 million, you've got to be all over it like jam on toast, if you like jam on toast. But there are so many options. It was really interesting listening to it this afternoon, and I would suggest you go and listen to it if you didn't see it, because he then went on to speak about Carlos Baleba. And what's abundantly clear here as we go through all the things that were said is that there are a lot of options. There are definitely a lot of options, and I'm going to tell you in a minute who I would go for out of if I had to pick two. But there are a lot of options here. You know, Anderson we've just spoken about. We're going to do Baleba now. Joao Gomes, Conor Gallagher, Angelo Stiller, Adam Wharton. You know, how many is that? Gallagher, Gomes, six midfield options there. Man United need to get two. So it is very, very, very interesting. And this was the direct quote from Ben Jacobs on Anderson before I moved to Baleba. I believe his price will exceed £50 million, but it definitely will not reach £100 million, and it depends on several factors. And I think we might have just nailed it there. Also, I might talk about Mainu towards the end, but and Ugarte, there was an interesting update on those two, and Casemiro and Harry Maguire. But let's move through the more interesting stuff first. Just very interesting, just about Solskjaer, what he had to say about Sancho. He was unlucky because before he joined us, he went on holiday and got an ear infection. He was in hospital and really struggled for his first 10 days or so. I don't think an ear infection was really Jadon Sancho's problem 5 years later. You know, we've all had a bad cold and we've all had a bad ear infection, or most of us had. And yeah, it can knock you out for a month, but it doesn't knock you out for 5 years, Ollie. Might have been a bit unlucky to his start of his career, but what about the rest? What about the rest, you know? Anyway, this is what Ben Jacobs had to say about Baleba. Man United are strategically positioned in a very good position because Carlos Baleba does prefer Man United, and therefore they hold a significant advantage because he wants and is keen on the move. He's in a similar mindset to Cunha and Mbeumo, with his heart set on a move to Old Trafford, rather than insisting on Champions League football, etc., like a Liam Delap. United are not concerned about his current dip in form compared to last season. I'm going to play devil's advocate on this, because what you'll get here is you'll get your cheerleaders going, sign him up, he wants to come to Man United, sign him up, he's like Mbeumo and Cunha, he's just desperate to play for Man United, sign him up. And I go, whoa, I actually don't agree with that statement at all. I don't care whether he wants to come and play for Man United. I do care about his dip in form. I'm sorry, just because he wants to play for Man United doesn't mean we need to ignore the fact that he's been very poor this season. And Man United going, we're not concerned about his dip in form this season. Well, you bloody well should be, lads. You bloody well should be. It's pretty bloody important. I.e., look at what we were just talking about with Jadon Sancho. Look at other players like Mason Mount. Oh, we're not concerned that he had a pelvic injury. You know, we think he'll be fine here. Oh, shit. 2 years later, he's had a load of injuries. Like, I think it is a red flag. Like Ryan T says, I think we have to consider that, especially when there are so many other midfielders up for grabs. I'm sorry, but we're entitled to our opinions, and if it offends people, I'm sorry. But my stance is this: when you've got Elliot Anderson, Adam Wharton, Angelo Stiller, Joao Gomes and Conor Gallagher all available, and we're going to go, we don't care about whether Baleba's not been very good this season, we still think he's a good signing, that's a red flag risk. It is. And you know what? The positive isn't that he wants to sign for Man United. I don't really care about that. I care about signing good midfielders. And if he can't turn it up between now and the summer, because we're not signing him before the summer. And that's the positive on Baleba. I think last season he looked very, very exciting. But I cannot get my head around why we are 11 games into the season and he has not turned up yet. And he has played all sorts of teams. And he's still being subbed off after an hour nearly every game. So I am worried about that. And if Man United go, no, we've scouted him and we're convinced he's the right signing, well, I hope you're bloody right, because we shouldn't be taking a risk on this area. There are so many midfielders available. We shouldn't be going for, we think we're right. But the positive is, if you want Baleba, he wants us, and he has still got over half a season to turn it on in the second half of the season for Brighton and prove everybody wrong. But for me, in the race, you see them graphs sometimes in the race. I think Baleba was there, he's gone down, and others have gone past him at the moment. So that's my feeling on Baleba. And also, you've got to consider what the price would be for Baleba as well. It was £100 million in the summer. We offered 60. Right here, right now, I think 60 might be a bit generous. But will Brighton knock 40 off? I don't know. Surely if he keeps playing badly, that brings his price down. If he starts playing well again, it knocks his price up. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think with Baleba, you want him to start playing well to justify buying him. But if he starts playing well, Brighton will go, well, that's why he's £100 million. But if he keeps playing badly, his price will come down. But then some of us will be going, he's playing badly, don't take the risk. So it's one of those. You want him to play badly, but that will boost his price up again. And then would you pay that price knowing he can dip off for 6 months? It's an interesting one, isn't it? His deep in form just describes a lack of mentality. His dip in form describes a lack of mentality, says Reese. Yeah, give us your thoughts, by the way. Thank you very much for your super chat, Reese. And JB says, why don't we double or nothing stake on Anderson in January to secure a #1 priority that we can get someone cheaper like Stiller and Gomez in the summer? I think Ben Jacobs said it himself, mate, and I do agree with it. I don't personally think that getting mixed up by the names. I don't think Elliot Anderson is going to want to leave Forest in the summer, in January. I think it's, I'm going to watch England tonight and hopefully he's playing again, because I think he has been picked, because I actually quite like watching England at the moment. And I like the fact that he's put Bellingham on the bench. I like the fact that he's, building a team around Harry Kane. I think it's a clever idea. And when you look at the lineup tonight, Elliot Anderson next to Declan Rice. So yeah, Anderson watch. Very interested by that. Rashford on the left, Saka on the right, Rodgers running past Kane. I like it. I do like it. And it'd be an interesting game against Serbia. Milenkovic, as we know, Vlahovic. There's a few players there. So yeah, look, I think going back to what I was saying there, Anderson, I don't think he's going to want to leave in January in a World Cup year. Third story of 6, Manchester United are interested in Joao Gomes, who could become available on the market if Wolves are relegated from the Premier League. Again, this is from Ben Jacobs. However, remember, I don't want to take any credit for this, but I literally was talking about this last night. There is a chance that interested clubs in Joao Gomes may attempt to sign him in the January transfer window if Wolves relegation is likely, as that money would be very useful to the club. Wolves have previously valued him at around 60 million, similar to the record fee they got for Cunha. I mean, I don't know whether Joao Gomes is worth 60 million, certainly not in January, but literally said this to you last night. When you look at Wolves and how many points they've got at the moment, it doesn't make for very pretty reading. They're in a very, very, very bad state. Let's just pop that up on the screen for you. So Wolves at the moment, what you got? 2 points. And by the time it hits January, we'll have had 21 games. They're already 8 points adrift from safety. We've got to play them twice. And we can help ourselves here. Look, after 21 games in early January, if they are 15, 16 points from safety, they're down. They're gone. You wander into Molineux, you go, there's 35 million for Joao Gomes. Do you want to take it? Or we'll come back in the summer and we'll get him for less than that because you've been relegated and he's got a relegation clause. So, I agree with Ben Jacobs. I think it is a possibility. The question is, do you want Joao Gomes? Now, PUV says, Gomez is perfect. United need a player that doesn't think he's the star and plays for the team. I have got to say, there's a lot to be said for some of these personalities that we're looking at. Adam Wharton, Elliot Anderson, Joao Gomes, Conor Gallagher. I think that they are players that aren't superstars. They're workers. You know, they come into your midfield with varying reputations, but they're workers. They're not superstars. And we've seen that with Mbeumo, and we've seen it with Cunha, just how impactful these players can be. Professional footballers who are ready to, you know, step up. And Joao Gomes could be a very interesting one. He's sort of come up on the rails, really, but I think he could be quite an interesting one. And he falls into the January category as well, the same as Conor Gallagher. And my belief is that any combination you put together at the moment, you can get two good midfielders for £100 million. If Elliot Anderson is available for, let's say, 60, 65 million, Joao Gomes is available for 30, 35, £100 million. Same with Conor Gallagher and Elliot Anderson. If you can get Baleba down to 60, 65 and Joao Gomes, £100 million, or Baleba and Gallagher, £100 million. If you go for Elliot Anderson at £65 million and you get Stiller for about 40, that's 105 million. Even 45 is 110 million. So we can get two midfielders for around 100 million pounds. And it's just about the combination you want to go for out of the six that are available. I mean, if you go for Elliot Anderson and Wharton, you're probably paying about 140. But I think Wharton probably falls behind Baleba and Anderson. And then your second midfielder is either Stiller, Gallagher, or Gomes. But I think you've got to get one in January. So I saw a video post online which said Man United in its history have always been a badly run club and we're a huge club because of two managers, says Rajaf. Interesting point. Interesting point. Yeah, interesting point. Not really going to delve into it anymore, but yeah. But yeah, Joao Gomes could be an opportunity in the January transfer window. And there was something. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about outgoings now as well because these are very interesting. Basically, Harry Maguire and Casemiro, very similar updates from Ben Jacobs. Harry Maguire is keen on extending, but Man United are still deliberating, likely leaning towards a short deal, 1 year or 1+1. The club's final offer will depend on their projected status in the next season, specifically considering factors like fixture volume, revenue, securing Champions League football, and whether they plan to sign a new defender. I.e., it's a cost-cutting exercise, isn't it? If they're not going to sign another defender, then you can keep Maguire for another year as a supplementary defender who's got experience. He'd have to cut his wages. On Casemiro, Ben Jacobs says Man United are exploring options around Casemiro, potentially offering a 1 or 2 year extension, possibly including a 1+1 structure again. The guy's 34 in February. His legs are gone. Now, today, his legs are gone today. How can you give him a 2-year bloody contract? Anyway, the prevailing view among sources is that for Casemiro to remain at the club, he would need to agree to a new contract on significantly reduced terms compared to his current high wages. Without an agreement on a lower salary, both the club and the player are likely to part ways. I mean, I was talking to Beth about this when she was going to ask Ben Jacobs about it. Why would Casemiro take a pay cut in his final years of his football career when he can keep the wage he's on now because he's free for somebody else? And it's not just Saudi and the MLS. He could probably go to, I mean, let me just confirm this because I don't want to say something without research. So apparently Modric is on about £110,000 a week at AC Milan. So yeah, you can't really. I was going to say he could go and play in Italy, but he won't be able to because they won't be able to cover his wages. But Turkey definitely could. Solid Blake. I was trying to think of any. If he wanted to stay in European football, where could he go and earn big money? Turkey would be bloody perfect. Perfect. I'm just saying, like, obviously, Casemiro is out of contract in the summer. The great thing about being out of contract is there's no transfer fee to anybody else. All the money comes to you. So you tend to be able to keep the same wage. But if he wants to stay in the European, more competitive scene, then where can he go? PSG won't be interested. Bayern won't be interested. Real Madrid or Barcelona won't be interested. No other Premier League club would be interested, which is probably a bit of a hint as to why are we interested. But, you know, let's play. But Turkey could. Turkey definitely could because of the tax rules over there. They could give him 200 grand a week and it would be more than 350 grand a week in the UK in relation to tax. I mean, Casemiro's take home from 350k a week or 300k a week would be pretty low compared to what you get in Turkey for just earning 250 grand a week. So he could go there. Of course, he could go to Saudi and have a pay increase. And he could probably go to the MLS and do the same as well. So I don't think he's going to stay at United, and hopefully he doesn't, because then we need to buy. My stance is this: if Casemiro goes, we've got to replace him. If Casemiro stays, we get another 2 years of Casemiro. I don't know whether people think of it like that, but the positive with some of these players going is that you have to replace them. Chip says, I think in terms of profile and midfield balance, Stiller paired with Anderson would be amazing and the best option, and it's probably doable for around 120 million. Chip, I think this is what I mean by the thumbnail saying up for grabs. Tonight, I've probably never been so positive about what we can do with our midfield in the next 6 to 8 months. I definitely want us to do something in January, and I think that is absolutely essential. But also, there are options in the midfield. And the reason we need to get one in January is because we can't be trying to get two in the summer. We know why we can't. You know, you're doubling up on negotiations. There'll be a lot more competition. And it's a World Cup year. So, but I am encouraged by the fact that there's Conor Gallagher, there's Joao Gomes, there's Elliot Anderson, there's Baleba, there's Angelo Stiller, there's Adam Wharton, and there may be a couple of others as well. So there's lots of options for Manchester United. But I do agree with you, Chip. I quite like, and I did say what my dream midfield two would be. Personally, Stiller, I think, is Bruno Fernandes, but a midfielder. And Elliot Anderson next to him. I think that would be perfect balance as well. That would be my two. However, I don't think either of them can be bought in January. So my dream would be Conor Gallagher or Joao Gomes in January, and then Angelo Stiller and Elliot Anderson in the summer. I'd actually go for 3, because then Casemiro and Bruno can go, and we can get rid of Ugarte as well, if we need to, which I think we're sort of heading towards, or Mainu, which I don't want to happen. So I actually think we need 3. You know, I think we've got to get one in January, and if we can't get Stiller and Anderson then, we get one in January, and then we get another 2 in the summer. And that's what I would do. Remember, we've probably got Bruno money coming in as well. So that would be me. If I can only have 2, and I've got to sign someone in January, then I think I don't care who it is out of Conor Gallagher or Joao Gomes. I really don't care. And then I'd still try and get Elliot Anderson in the summer. And if you can't get him, go for Stiller. So that's how I would do it. Yeah. Indy Callier said that United have got 110 million for January. Thoughts? Was that on the subscription model you have to pay for? I mean, come on. Let's be honest. The Baleba story was a good story, and ever since then, it's been a load of shit, that account, hasn't it? And that's the truth. That's the truth. Come on. The Baleba story was very interesting, but ever since then, it's been a load of bollocks. And we haven't got 120 million. We haven't got 110 million in January at all. I mean, if you believe that, tap your bloody bank details in the... No, don't do that. Yeah, 110 million, forget it. No way. Not in January. Never is that going to happen. On Ugarte, by the way, I just reminded me to bring that into the show. So this was from Ben Jacobs. Amorim continues to think Ugarte is a strong fit for his system, just that he's not performing too well at the moment, and also 1 game a week is a factor, but I don't think there is an issue between the player and the manager. But that to me is quite similar to what we were talking about with regards to Baleba. I mean, and what I mean by that is, if Amorim thinks that Ugarte is a valuable player for the team and, you know, can be a player for the future, but we're acknowledging that he's not playing very well at the moment, does that not put up a red flag for a player that's in his mid-20s who isn't able to put it in, week out? I mean, are we not just making excuses there? Oh, there's only one game a week, and, you know, he's not performing well enough. I mean, look, I actually do agree with that. I think it's very difficult for a Xerxes or an Ugarte or a Mainu, and we saw it with Mazraoui against Spurs. It's very difficult to come in from the cold and warm up straight away. You know, it takes time. I don't know whether as a kid, if you ever used to go out and play in the cold, and you get get numb fingers from playing out. You don't walk into the heat and go, my fingers are fine now. It takes time for them to warm up, and it's the same with a footballer. Like, you can't just go, oh, I know you've not played for weeks, but here's your 20 minutes, you know, prove it or you're out again. You know, it does take a little bit of time. But what I find interesting is that apparently Amorim does think Ugarte is good enough. He's just not good enough at the moment. And I just think if you really thought he was good enough, you'd be picking him or you'd be playing him more, because in my opinion, that midfield hasn't done very well. There's been good games, but there's been bad games as well. And they've been getting tired in games. And, you know, Ugarte came on against Spurs and arguably was at fault for at least one of the goals, wasn't he? So I think it's a bit similar to Baleba, isn't it? Or we're not too worried about their bad form. We think there's a good player there. That's not really how big clubs behave. You know, you're either a good player and you've got to be a consistent player if you want to be a good player. That's how it works. Absolutely, in my opinion. Thank you very much. We'll be looking to get 35 million to Savage. I think with Ugarte, one of two things will happen, as I said to you before. He either will bounce back, and it could happen. We saw it with Casemiro. You know, he wasn't being used by Amorim and couldn't even... I think I remember saying that last January, Casemiro was just not being used. It wasn't even bringing him off the bench. And then suddenly he started picking him. So it can happen under Amorim. You can get back in. But he's either going to get back in or he's going to have to go on loan in the summer. And then if he goes on loan in the summer, he's going to end up being another Onana, Ugarte, Anthony, Rasmus, who we spent a lot of money on and we're going to struggle to get money back for. Although in the case of Rasmus, we might actually get the money back because he's a little bit younger, doesn't he? David says Ugarte doesn't seem to have the mentality, which is very surprising. For someone from Uruguay, you know, they tend to be mentality monsters from South America, but yeah, it's not necessarily going that well, is it? Why are we looking at the bottom half of the table? We're not there anymore, says T-Dog. In relation to what? Sorry, the carousel's not stuck on the bottom half of the table. There was no carousel. I just used it to talk about Wolves, so we'll just move that onto there. Thank you very much. Let me get into some of your comments because it's an early show tonight. Unfortunately, I love the 8 o'clock show, but I am doing the England game, so a little bit early tonight. Oh, just a reminder as well, charity stream. I'll be setting it up tomorrow, but the Just Giving page is set up. I've pinned it in the live chat. Slow Sports News was our first contributor to that. We're raising money for people with serious illness. We do it every Saturday, middle Saturday of the international break. I've got some, I tell you what, it's going to be the best charity stream ever because although I will be doing some Fall Guys and I'm trying to find a scary game and we've got FC26 draft and all that to do, I've got a bit interactive this year. So we've got a watch along for Eubank against Ben, which will be about 10 o'clock on the evening. And I've got another couple of surprises that are interactive for you as well. Never been done before. All I'm going to say is it's going to be great fun. And that'll be about 7 o'clock on the evening as well. So we're going interactive this week, on this one. So, but remember, I've not bought the oil yet. No, remember, we are doing this to raise money for people with serious illness like we do every year. So if you want to start donating early, it's always nice to have a good start. The link is in the live chat. Thank you, everybody, as always. We seem to grow an attachment to every player who serves the club unless they backstab but does like Sancho or Garnacho. This is another key example of how low the standards have dropped. Well, I would use Bruno Fernandes as an example for that. You know, it's like I don't really want to talk about Bruno, but you know, you've brought it up in a way that I just find it really, the sentimentality angle is laughable. Like there should be no sentiment in football unless you're winning. And even proven winners at Man United, the sentimentality. I mean, look, Sir Alex Ferguson is the godfather of so many of us when it comes to football. If you grew up under the Sir Alex era, and I look at someone like Roy Keane and I go, he couldn't have given any more to Manchester United. I was listening to Paul Scholes and Nicky Butt last night on their podcast talking to Robbie Fowler. And the question they were asked was like, can you name a performance? They were talking about Doku against Liverpool for Man City. And it was a very, very, very good individual performance. And I said, it's a long time since I've seen one player have such a big impact on a big game. So they asked Paul Scholes, like, can you remember a game that you played in where one player had a total impact on it? And he said, Keane, 99 semi-final, Turin. Well, I watched it. He's right. Absolutely right. And, those types of players, obviously, these are the top players. And he won multiple titles. He was a brilliant, brilliant player for us. Where was the sentimentality when he did a video on MUTV slagging off a few young players and Sir Alex booted him? How much had Roy Keane done for Manchester United and Sir Alex Ferguson? How many holes? Sir Alex Ferguson wouldn't have won a European Cup. We would not have won the treble if Roy Keane had not rolled his sleeves up in Turin and got us there. And yet, one bad decision around a video, you're out, you're booted. No sentimentality, you see. And it's a bit like Rooney at the end. I loved Rooney, but God, at the end, I was like, just leave. You're not good enough anymore. So this sentimentality angle is sort of like a new thing. But we're not even good. Man United aren't even good. And we've got people who have sentiment for players. And I'd say, Bruno's a good example because, how many shows do we do where people start talking about, Bruno agenda, this, that, and the other? I mean, I can't stand the word agenda anyway, but it's not a bloody agenda, is it? I mean, you either watch the United stand or you don't. At what point is it an agenda against Bruno Fernandes when many of us say he's our best player, but at times he's our worst player because of where he is? If Bruno Fernandes was playing we play with two number 10s. All I've ever said is Bruno Fernandes is a number 10. And I think he's one of the best number 10s in Europe. Play him as a number 10. As a midfielder, no. Oh, you've got an agenda. Well, I haven't got a bloody agenda, have I? Because I'm saying pick him as a number 10. If I had an agenda, I'd say piss off to Saudi. I'm not saying that. I'm saying in the midfield, I don't like it. Some of you do. I don't like it. And it's proven multiple times, statistically, when you compare him to other midfielders, his defensive work rate, he doesn't pick up the runners. It's not his fault. Put him as a number 10. I'm all right. Some of you don't even like him as a number 10. Some of you would get rid of him anyway. But for me, and also, this is a player that, for years, I've absolutely loved. I said we should have bloody bought him for 18 months. No one even knew who he was. So, well, some of you did. So, this is what I mean. This is this sentimentality. You can't criticise players because I'm my favourite. And I'm like, but it's not even criticism sometimes. It's like, there's very few players I would say boot out of Man United today. Who would you boot out of Man United today? Today, none. Not today because, it's not. January, no. I can't think of a player I would get rid of in January. Because even though I think Casemiro needs to go in the summer, not till the summer. Not in January. That's stupid. Keep him till the summer. He can do a job till the summer and then move him on. So, yeah, I can't think. Even someone like Delo, not till the summer. Do it in the summer. It's fine. It'll be okay. He can come in and do a job here and there. I mean, I wouldn't start him, but he's fine. Get rid of him in the summer. He's not going to go anywhere in the summer, is he? But, I personally would be moving him on in the summer. He's 27. Goodbye. Malacia can go, solid Blake, but I don't count him as a player anyway. I don't. Emily Derry says there was no sentimentality when Sir Alex got rid of Beckham, Butt or Phil Neville either, and they won the treble. This is what I mean. I think sentimentality is something that thrives in our fan base. You can't say that about them. It's an agenda. You can't say that about them. You're a hater. And, some of us grew up in an era where you sort of listen to this and you go, what are you on about? What a prat. What are you talking about? Why are you talking to me about hate and agenda and sentimentality? I grew up in an era where David Beckham was sold because he liked to do a little bit of brand work. I grew up in an era when Van Nistelrooy was one of the best strikers in the world and he got booted out because of, he fell out with the Nevilles, I think it was, or something. Or maybe that was Jaap Stam. I can't remember. But, Roy Keane did a video, goodbye, and we won the league all the time. I think sentimentality is overblown, and we are a bit too much sentimentality. These players get paid a lot of money. If you've got pictures of them on your wall, that's great. I used to have pictures of Ryan Giggs on my wall. Gary Speed. What was my dream midfield growing up? It was Roy Keane. I think it was Roy Keane, Paul Ince, and Gary Speed. I think that was my midfield three. I used to go on about it all the time, what a midfield three that would be. It might not have been Ince. I'm trying to think who it was. It was definitely Keane, Speed, and someone else. And obviously I had loads of Man United players. But I really did rate Gary Speed. I know he played for Leeds, but I really did. It was brilliant. It was a brilliant header of the ball. I just really liked him as a midfielder. But anyway, I lose my point. I've lost my point now. But my point is, sentimentality. Come on, Player FC. I'm surprised I haven't called it that. We just, the only thing that matters is Man United winning. I don't really care if we sell a player I like and if we get somebody better in. And I certainly don't want to hold on to players who've not won a Premier League title. I don't. I really don't. Tariq, thank you very much. Welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for getting your your badge in. I suppose I better hold this up, actually, because these are going very, very quick. Links in the description, or go to Shopify, United Stand. We have got a few more mediums in, because they basically sold out. I'd say if you're medium, get a large anyway. And if you're large, get an extra large, because they're a good fit, but you could have a slightly bigger fit. We do ship them worldwide. Any news on the Sesko injury? No, nothing actually. Well, no, we have had an update on the Sesko injury. He's going to be back. It's not long. It's not a long injury. So that was the update, wasn't it? So I presume by the lack of an update that it can't be a long one. Daniel Thompson says, I got my shipment email today that my jumper is on its way. I'm very excited. Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. I've got some really good content for you next week, by the way. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Don't tell anyone. I'm only telling you lot on the video. But keep your eyes peeled next week. 5 days, Monday to Friday. Thoughts on this, Mark? Mid in January, Fernandes, Dalot, Ugarte, Casemiro, Shaw out in the summer. Sorry, what's this? Get a midfielder in January. Get rid of Bruno, Dalot, Ugarte, Casemiro, Shaw in the summer. Anderson, Stiller, DeMarco, Diamonde, and an experienced striker in. Says United forever. I mean, it's fanciful. It's appetising. It won't happen. Thinking Cap says, during the AFCON, could Mainu go centre midfield and Bruno Cam? I would like to see it. When Sesko got injured, that was literally what we were talking about on Saturday night. Put Cunha and Mbeumo in a front three with Bruno as a 10 and give Mainu a run next to Casemiro. I would love to see that. Absolutely love to see that. Game's kicking off, says Capaldo. It's not yet. I've got it here. It better not be kicking off at 7:30. It's meant to be 5:30. Alison Hammond's Florida Unpacked. Oh my God, I couldn't think of anything worse. Oh God. Oh God. Who comes up with these ideas for TV? Alison Hammond, Florida Unpacked. Oh God. No, thank you. Absolutely not. They are in the tunnel. Right, Elliot Anderson watch. England against Serbia. When is the Piers Morgan thing dropping? It went out a week ago, mate. It was a little video for about 3 or 4 minutes on the Ronaldo video on his channel. About an hour in. Right, okay. Join me on the watch along. I'm back with you at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Great show tonight. I wish it could have been longer because there was so much to delve into. But I will see you on the watch along. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe on your way out. Take care. Stay safe.